It's fair to say that when the Dawn of the Hunt patch came out for Path of Exile 2, I took a bit of an extended break. I was also incredibly just upset at the state of the game, even though there were multiple patches that came in afterwards after 0.2 to fix what was going on with itemization and just skills in general. A lot of it really left me just kind of burnt out. And even then with PoE 1, I didn't stick to too much of Secrets of the Atlas. I kind of bounced off it a little bit too quickly. So I was kind of excited for the new patch coming out for PoE 2. And I'm very tepidly excited. The third edict honestly looks fantastic from what we saw. My favorite encounter in PoE 1 has always been Abyss, and I like this whole new thing of like having unveiled modifiers that are Abyss-like, or even having the new changes to the Abyss mechanic as well. The problem is though that I feel like what's happening is everyone's always incredibly excited about a new patch, but I have some reservations, especially with some of the actual mechanics being applied into the game. Something that kind of threw me off was them saying everybody has been buffed. All the classes got buffs. Yet when you look at the patch notes, you can clearly see that block has been effectively nerfed. We're looking at something like 50% block chance, but you can block all hits. So it really goes around to saying like what actually feels better to play. And is that even a nerf or a buff in general once you get your hands on it? I'm kind of interested to see what the new nodes will do as well when PoB 2 releases with that actual update. Granted, these patch notes don't have everything, like all the new nodes being added and all the new support gems being added, but I still have some concerns overall, and I feel like the vision for this game may be the thing that's kind of giving me pause to get excited. Look, I'm incredibly happy at the fact that we're no longer having to do cruel difficulty and we can have interludes happen in the game and we're getting Act 4. That's fantastic. I actually really do enjoy PoE 2. The thing is though, I feel like there are a lot of issues that the game has that either Jonathan or the team just do not want to address, or they feel that they are steadfast in doing. And one of those things is sprinting. And sure, yeah, it seems like a great idea up front, but I feel like it is again another band-aid on the problem, just like waypoints were. I feel like character movement is already too slow, and depending upon what kind of armor you wear could also determine how fast you move as a character and how much more movement speed you are then needing. At the same time though, if you get attacked while you're sprinting, then you fall to the floor and you could effectively just lose your character if you're playing hardcore, or just die and lose a bunch of XP. The thing is though, the way the enemies are designed, especially in mapping, and even if you're doing delirium, all the enemies just tend to rush you, and we'll talk about that as well. So it's going to be very difficult to even try to use sprint correctively when sometimes you do get off-screened and other times you're just getting rushed or bombarded by enemies all at once. Again, like I said before, this feels like a band-aid on the actual problem, which truly is just size of the maps. They are in fact too big, or too windy to walk around, or too intricate in detail, where things just become more annoying to get through than simply just making them smaller or just fixing some of the layouts as well. Adding sprint feels like they're just adding again another point to have waypoints, not really addressing the problem overall, either in the campaign or in endgame mapping as well. Sure, it's nice to have the actual skulls on the icon now, or the mini-map and the map itself, where the elites are when you're playing the game, but the problem is when you've got one elite on the opposite side of the map, even with sprinting, I have to use the waypoint to get to the opposite side, and then use the sprint mechanic to get to the enemy even faster to then finish the actual map. Now here's the thing, could I be wrong? Yeah, sure, I could be wrong, but I would rather have a Quicksilver Flask or a Quicksilver Charm or anything along that lane just to keep having the actual speed increase of my character consistently, rather than having to press a button to do a roll, to then hold it, to then sprint. That just seems like so much more cumbersome. And I would also like just a charm to give us phasing so we can phase through enemies if we're going to be able to roll as well. And look, I know the argument that I'm going to hear immediately in the comment section. You just want this to be PoE 1. No, I don't. But to deny the fact that there are good mechanics inside of PoE 1, to not bring them over to PoE 2 doesn't make a lot of sense. It feels like they're doing it just for the sake of being different. And that's where I have like a bit of a problem with all of this. And now let's talk about support gems, which honestly, I kind of like this change. I feel like Jonathan was 100% correct on this. yeah, everybody was just basically saying what is going to maximize the damage of this skill. Now that those are done, what's going to maximize the damage of this skill, those are done, and then what's next? Everyone is going to try and min-max everything. So giving us the option of the ability to try different builds and try new things does make a lot of sense. I think the example he used about poison was a great example overall. Or anyone trying to use a freeze build. I'm doing a bleed Amazon. Same exact thing. Even though I'm only running Spear, Field, and Rake, I would like to use other things as well to bring into combos of what I'm doing, and we'll talk about combos in a second, to make things more interesting and more viable, or even then just have that kind of synergy available for everybody overall. Because the thing is, you want to do a combo, but that skill is not going to be as effective because you don't have the right supports on it. And yeah, I know, I just talked about PoE 1 being in PoE 2, but the thing is, I did kind of like that one support system because it did kind of like force me to think about things. But at the same time, I still feel like having those supports being able to be used across multiple skills will help open up other build varieties as well. So, and you know how we talked about in terms of like having those combos? Well, Jonathan is really doubling, dare I even say tripling down on the entire visceral combat vision of Path of Exile 2. And this is where I'm going to have a bit of concern. Here's some gameplay of me doing a tier 14 map on my Bleed Amazon build. I'm just running a simple Delirium. I'm not doing anything too crazy on a 3 mod map. I don't really feel like I have the time to pull off any combos in this sort of environment. And even then, in the previous season, when I was playing my Explosive Grenade Mercenary, I felt the exact same way. What I tried to have done was either a 1 or 2 button combo to help clear the screen, simply because every enemy was just rushing me consistently all the time, non-stop, and I had barely any room to breathe. Trying to go through and use the parry mechanic in this kind of situation really, for me, doesn't pan out at all. If I had to stop, do a parry, which almost sometimes never even worked half the time, honestly, and then it was really inconsistent, get the frenzy charge, get it 2 more times, then spend it on the skill that needs the frenzy charge after I charge something else up, I'm already just dead. It's over. Like, I feel if they want to do this like visceral combat, like intense action kind of a thing, then they need to slow down enemy speed overall, or just reduce the amount of enemies rushing you in the first place. The thing is, these combos, this kind of visceral action they want to create is not actually conducive to the kind of game they have right now, especially at endgame. When you're running tier 16, 17, 18 maps, enemies are going to be rushing you non-stop, and that is a real issue, especially with them trying to have a real reason to combo skills together. Because the first thing I did with my Amazon Bleed build was try to figure out a way of just not having to use the parry mechanic and not having to combo. I wanted to have a 1 or 2 button build to blast the entire screen, and Spearfield did that for me, which honestly, it works really well, and the combo of Spearfield and Rake is really good. When I can Rake, get a good crit, get a nice bleed, then Spearfield with Bludgeon to aggravate the bleed since I moved them with the Spearfield, and then have the actual incision increase the bleed damage magnitude, and they just watch that bar all the way fall to the floor and then just hit him with that actual blood hunt at the end. Like, that's the kind of combo we're talking about. If the idea is to have 2 button combos, dare I even say 3 at the most, and keep this kind of actual enemy speed, then yeah, I could see that kind of makes sense. But if Jonathan and Mark are looking at things like we want to have really intense combat scenarios, then pack size has to be reduced and enemy speed has to be reduced as well. And getting off-screened has to be kind of limited on that too, because there's so many times where I just get bum rushed and then get one-shot by an enemy when I couldn't see them wind up to do any sort of attack because I'm getting swarmed in the first place, and then panic rolling my way out trying to back up and then try to do any sort of attack, but then get slammed by another enemy out of the other side of the actual screen because I was paying attention to everybody in front of me getting swarmed. That's the kind of stuff I'm talking about. Yeah, it is pretty much like specific to that one section, but the thing is, I've had that happen over time, and maybe it just could be the class that I'm playing or the build that I'm using. I feel like everything is so skewed to having a ranged character over a melee one that it kind of really hurts the experience overall, especially when you're getting rushed all the time without any major defenses. Some of the changes, though, that I really am looking forward to is, in fact, a lot of the end game stuff. Getting the splinters and then choosing how much to spend to farm those bosses in the end game and then choose your difficulty because of that is a way better experience overall. And at the same time, just having a better leveling experience overall while being at that end game. And that's where I feel they're going to be able to keep a lot of people playing, because the problem that I have right now is that the gulf of time needed from hitting end game to finally getting to actual like pinnacle bosses is a huge time investment, way more than what we actually see in PoE 1. I feel like the amount of items that you need, the kind of gear that you need, and everything required to get to that state of starting to do pinnacle bosses as a dad who works a 40-hour job and has 2 YouTube channels, it's really not feasible. I actually kind of want to make an experiment to see if I can play for 1 hour a day for an entire season and reach and get all pinnacle bosses done without doing Uber. And I feel like that could be, in fact, a really good test. And I know there are very hardcore people that play this game and they're like, well, I get everything done in the first 2 weeks. Hey, look, listen, bro, you're a top tier gamer, baby. That's awesome for you. But for me, I kind of want to mix things up every once in a while, but I still want to be able to play the game and progress in some direction. So it still would be kind of nice to have that little like curved flatten just a wee bit, just a wee bit. I'm not a streamer, so I can't do it all day long like I want to. God, I would love to play PoE all day long. But the thing is, it's just not feasible right now. So having that kind of curve toned down, but still being able to have a good difficulty at the top end if you want to push for that, I think is going to be a good choice overall, especially with like the end game changes and the splinter changes and even just that stuff in general. And with that, though, comes crafting, and that's kind of where I have a bigger problem too. The changes to essences are great because now I'm able to target farm the kind of essences that I actually want and then get the skills that I want. Being able to use PoE 2 DB and figure out what actual tiers I'm getting from the essence is fantastic, and getting a direct, actual, deterministic craft is a good thing. But the problem is, though, I feel like there should be some changes. The orbs of alterations should in fact be able to go through and cycle me through other kinds of suffixes and prefixes when I'm re-rolling them. I feel like I'm just taking an item that has good potential or a good base and then doing one kind of roll and then throwing them all away afterwards. I can't do anything after. And that's kind of like what kind of irks me the most. Or if I want to build a weapon from scratch because I have a good simple base or the kind of actual base that I want of the weapon that I need, and then once I get the rolls that I don't like, whether through alteration orbs, so from that first use, I gotta chuck it because I can't do anything else with it. I think that's incredibly important to do. I should be able to roll consistently with that currency to go ahead and get the actual suffixes or prefixes that I want as a good magic base, to then add the regal orb to make it rare, to then add the exalted orb. I think then at least the Gamba won't feel as bad and it'll be a better currency dump rather than trying to go through and give me perfect alterations or perfect exalts or things along that line. It's a neat idea and a good concept, but I'm also worried about a couple of things as well, and that's the economy. Right now, like the last time I checked, it was like 2,000 exalted for 1 divine. That's ridiculous, honestly. And now Chaos Orbs are far more valuable over just Exalted Orbs. And that's the thing. If the currency doesn't flow the way it's supposed to while you're playing an SSF, which is what I like to play, well, not really pure SSF. I like to play SSF light, I guess you could call it. I like to use the currency exchange and then just craft my own stuff from there. It feels like half the time or even more, what I'm doing is picking up just white bases off the floor of the kind of item that I want that'll have the prefixes and suffixes that I need, and then just rolling it while I'm playing the map. And if I don't get the actual affix I like, then I just throw it back on the floor of the map and keep going. It just feels like too much gambling and not enough deterministic ideas, which is why I'm glad they're doing the essence change. But even then, I feel like we need a crafting bench. I hate to say it. We do. We need a crafting bench. There has to be one. Take the salvage bench, turn it into a crafting bench, and then have the guy who disenchants everything also salvage whatever sockets or currency that I can use to make other weapons increase their quality. Like, just do that. Just do that. Make the salvage bench the crafting bench, and then give me like up to tier 3 in just terms of like currency dump for that actual affix. Like, you know, don't give me a guaranteed tier 2 or tier 1. Just give me like something up there that I can be like, okay, I got 2 good bases. I can do something with it. I'm missing 1 suffix or 1 prefix. I can just craft that last one and not have to like lose my mind about dumping all my currency again and tossing this item down to disenchant for like 1 shard of 1 regal. Like, Dude, like, just give me that, bro. Like that could have saved me so many other times of just having an item of an upgrade that I needed that would have helped me progress even further, rather than just wasting my time while playing the game to do all of that again. And I think that could really help a lot of issues in terms of crafting overall. But I do like the new changes of the new types of currency for perfects, which will be really nice to see. But that bench has got to be there, man. It's just it's so powerful, and it's a good currency sink for a lot of players. And I feel like it could help a lot of the more like casual players like myself get that boost in power that we need to get to that next phase, to keep doing that without having to go through the whole Gamba mechanic all over again. And finally, trade. Yes! Thank you for once. Yes, that's exactly what we need. Look, I don't like the website. I think that like the trade system and the trade website in PoE 2 is really weird. I haven't figured out like the weighting system yet, which I have to figure out on my own and then make a video about to help you guys out if that's the case. But like, fine, just even when they're offline or AFK or when they're mapping, I don't have to leave a map to come back and then lose a portal to go through, get 20 exalts, get back in the map, only have one portal left, and then kill an enemy, get a divine drop, but then get one shot off screen and then lose the divine. So I basically, that's happened, like, it's really specific, but it's happened to me like more than twice already while I've been just replaying this league before the new start. So yes, just do the trade thing so I can just keep mapping and keep playing and not have to sit in my hideout all day long. That is such a fantastic change that I think is really going to help. So overall, I know people are very excited about this entire season. I'm kind of excited too, but also I'm very just hesitant. I really liked the first season of PoE 2. I did not like Dawn of the Hunt at all. In fact, it made me want to quit the actual game. And I just took a 4-month break from doing anything about it to come back now for the third Edict, which hopefully is in fact good. I want to see what happens when we get the actual PoE 2 so we can find out what changes were made, especially with the new passives and new nodes to fix things out. And of course, the reduction of requirements for stats, which would be great as well. So, and hopefully, fingers crossed, this is a good league overall, because I really do love GGG. I love this series. I love this sets of games. And really, it's just been a huge passion project of mine for this channel to do. So I want them to be successful, and I want this to be the best sequel to one of the best ARPGs, or the best ARPG basically ever made. So yeah, Blizzard, take notes. But if you want to see more of this kind of content, my hot takes on ARPGs, more guides, more how-tos, more first-time Let's Plays, and even then, I will be starting my experiment on the 29th for 1 hour a day playing this league to see if I can actually get all endgame pinnacle bosses down prior to Uber. That's going to be an interesting thing to see. I wonder if that's going to be a cool video too. I might just do that as well. So stay tuned for that and subscribe if you want to see that kind of content. With all that being said though, thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you have a great one, and I'll see you next time. Peace!